a lot of different spells. Azorius Charm, Think Twice, Sphinx's Revelation, Pillar of Flame, 2 copies of Turn Burn along with War Leader's Helix, 2 Syncopates, 2 Counterflux, a Rewind, a Supreme Verdict, and something that I like to see, which is a lot of lands, 26 of them.
Yep. Definitely need a lot of lands. Make sure that you kind of get the ball rolling. You have a lot of mana-intensive cards, particularly in Sphinx's Revelation and on occasion Snapcaster Mage. And with control decks, I think it's generally better to err on the side of a little too much mana than a little too few. What's also interesting about this matchup is there's a common consensus that Junk Reanimator is kind of the deck that pushed Blue-White-Red out of the metagame. The perception is that Blue-White-Red was neither fast enough nor powerful enough to compete with Junk Reanimator, though I know some advocates of Blue-White-Red Flash, most notably Jerry Thompson, actually feel the matchup is fine for Blue-White-Red, assuming the pilot is competent. So I'm really curious to see who I assume the best Blue-White-Red Flash pilot in the room is, in Matt Costa, how he's able to navigate this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a player who's incredibly competent. We see a player here in 4 Grand Prix top 8s. Grand Prix Kansas City 2011, Grand Prix Montreal 2011 as well, playing limited. Then you see Grand Prix Baltimore and Standard playing Blue-White Delver, excuse me. And then Grand Prix Atlantic City with Blue-White-Red Flash. So he already has 1 Grand Prix top 8 with this style of strategy. And again, he's always playing some sort of blue-white deck. His Pro Tour top 8, Pro Tour Dark Ascension over in Honolulu, Blue-White Delver as well. So we're going to see if we can translate that success a little bit more this weekend, because he's already off to a fantastic start as we are underway here for game number 1.
Costa with all 3 colors by the second turn here, with a Sulphur Falls and a Glacial Fortress.
He's got the Buddy Land draw, and Mickelson not off to a very fast start either. But, that's, if you're Costa, you're pretty happy about that, because you're not worried about a Grizzly Salvage or a Mulch or him accelerating in anything deadly. The thing you have to wonder from Mickelson's deck is, does he have cards like Acidic Slime in his main deck? Does he have, the card like Obzat in his main deck? Does he have some of those problem cards for a Blue-White-Red Flash?
And the answer to those questions is he has a single Obsidat and 2 copies of Acidic Slime in his main.
Okay. So, those are very real cards against the strategy. If he has cards like Centaur's Healer or some other, other mediocre cards that lean towards the aggressive matchup for Junk Reanimator, Costa's very, very happy. But, he does have the Slimes, which, as a lot of people said, kind of turn this matchup around. You see Costa cast a Restoration Angel on Mickelson's end step, and Mickelson will do the same to kind of block Costa's.
Sheridan finally finding white mana on his 4th turn there, so see how much of his hand it can get turned on here in subsequent turns.
This plays a little bit curious to me, because Costa attacking here is basically a free roll, and Sheridan immediately took the damage. He did not block. If you're Mickelson there, you took the opportunity to resolve your Restoration Angel. Would you block there?
Unless you're planning on kind of damage racing this game, which seems like a difficult way to approach this matchup, I probably would have blocked.
Okay. But you see Voice of Resurgence get cast. Costa with his Singleton Rewind, going to untap his lands, going to trade the Sulphur Falls for a Cavern of Souls, and going to resolve another Restoration Angel. So he is getting the beatdowns going. We'll see if Mickelson has a response to this Restoration Angel. He does not. And we have 2, 3, 4 flyers here for Costa coming in the red zone. This is not the first time we've seen him employ the strategy here with Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
And not greedy with it either, not waiting for an Augur of Bolas to come around or get the value with Snapcaster Mage, just putting him out there as a strike force and just getting the damage in it. And I think we're going to probably see Mickelson actually hold back now with his. Yeah.
Yes. And this is, again, the type of game that I really like Blue-White-Red Flash playing. He's ahead on the, Matt Costa's ahead on the board and attacking, but also keeping Sheridan off balance with a mixture of permission and removal spells. So just, Costa's kind of firing on all cylinders here. He has War Leader's Helix in his hand and a Syncopate. He's close to threatening lethal. Really in control of this game. Snapcaster Mage in hand as well. A lot of tools to work with.
See Costa's going to come across with the 2 Angels yet again. Mickelson gets to block this one. Now Costa could have certainly just played War Leader's Helix, clear the path, and then attack with the 2 Angels, put Mickelson down to 3. But being patient, keeping Azorius Charm available, Syncopate available, doesn't want anything to go wrong here. No reason to really push that advantage, as Mickelson's going to try to slam down a Thrag Tusk.
Because Mickelson's cards that matter here are also expensive. It's very likely that, he's not going to be able to threaten you with anything significant as long as you keep Syncopate up. So Costa, very disciplined, doesn't want to push too hard here.
See Costa's going to attack here. He's going to War Leader's Helix upstairs, and Matthew Costa's going to win game number 1 here over Sheridan Mickelson. Blue-Red Flash up a game against Junk Reanimator, and you saw that game. Really, Costa in complete control. Mickelson didn't have anything to start the game. We didn't see any mana acceleration. We didn't see Mulch. We didn't see Grizzly Salvage. We didn't really see much of anything from him.
Yeah, the Junk Reanimator deck is eminently beatable when it's not doing the Grizzly Salvage mold stuff. Unless it's accelerating its mana, at that point it's just playing with 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 mana cost creatures. It's not that cohesive of a game plan. Sheridan was missing the pieces he needs to really get the ball rolling, and kind of just fumbled around, and the blue-white-red flash deck is much leaner and efficient than the Junk Reanimator deck. So without any of the powerful synergies going on, no surprise to see Costa take the first game.
So we'll take a look at sideboards here. We're going to start with Mickelson because he will be on the play. Junk Reanimator, we already saw Voice of Resurgence in his main deck. Kind of curious to see if he has any more in his sideboard.
He does get to board up to a third copy. He has 2 main and then a third one on the board. He has more copies of his Sig Slime if he wants to go on more of a mana denial plan. He has 3 copies of Sin Collector, which I believe are excellent here, and then the rest of his sideboard seems fairly marginal. He does have 2 copies of Tristani, which aren't out of the question if he feels that he needs to sort of take a more controlling stance in the matchup.
Okay.
It's also out of the range of a lot of Costa's removal and doesn't need to attack to be effective, so it's sort of Azorius Charm's wheelhouse as well.
Okay.
So that's a card I actually think might have some potential in the matchup. Maybe that's for more dedicated, anti-red-green, anti-Naya Blitz sort of matchups, but it might be fine here, and particularly with the way the first game went, he may be inclined to bring in Tristani.
I mean, the first game was so heavily in Costa's favor that we might see Mickelson try to take some risk or try some off-the-wall strategies. Tristani's not a card that you said that you expect to see it come in against Blue Red Flash, more of a Naya Blitz or aggressive type card. But I kind of agree with you. It does provide this kind of unique angle of attack because it does have 5 toughness. It pretty much forces Costa's hand to have turn and burn with Fuse to take care of it. We'll take a look at Costa's sideboard here. 3 copies of Thundermaw Hellkite, which we have touched on quite a bit here. And if you've seen anything from Junk Reanimator, you know that deck has a very difficult time with that card.
Yes.
So I would not be surprised to see that come in at all. So 3 copies of Renounce the Kills, 3 Dispels, 2 Izzet Zatacasters, 1 Clone, 1 Supreme Verdict, 1 Pillar of Flame, and 1 Oblivion Ring. Now the spells that that Sheridan cast that game, we saw Thragtusk, we saw multiple Restoration Angels, and we saw Voice of Resurgence. Didn't see Grizzly Salvage, didn't see Mulch, no Burial Rites. I think Costa is, smart enough, experienced enough to probably put his opponent on Junk Reanimator, even though it could just be a junk deck. But we'll probably see him put him on Junk Reanimator, and if that's the case, that clone's going to come in for Angel of Serenity.
Yes, and I think that Costa just has to assume your opponent's 9-0, the likelihood that their Junk Reanimator has to be higher than their Junk good cards, or whatever the case. And so even though he didn't see any of the giveaway cards, like you mentioned, Mulch or Grizzly Salvage or Burial Rites, I believe Costa is working under that assumption.
So, again, I think the 3 Thundermaws are going to come in. I think the Clone will come in. You can make arguments for a card like Supreme Verdict. You can make an argument for a card like Pillar of Flame, which Costa has 3 of in his main deck already. Does he want a 4th one? Is he assuming that Mickelson has access to 4 Voice of Resurgences after sideboard? How much does he care about Voice of Resurgence? Probably a decent amount because he has Blue, White, Red Flash. But, does he want to board into a 4th Pillar because there are diminishing returns there? And then there's the Oblivion Ring in his sideboard as well, which, again, is an interesting answer to Angel of Serenity. But again, if you're putting your opponent on Junk Reanimator, Acidic Slime, Oblivion Ring, I don't really know if you want to pick that fight.
And it's funny, it's actually possible, for as powerful as Voice of Resurgence is, that it has improved Blue White Red's Flash matchup against Junk Reanimator because it's such a juicy Pillar of Flame target.
Your pillars are working pretty heavily because they want to be able to take care of the Arbor Elves and the Avacyn Pilgrims, and then your Voice just adds on to that, and then it makes you really want to be just playing Pillar of Flame and then Snapcastering it.
Yeah.
So both players are off here. We're going to see a Farseek here from Mickelson, so he's going to accelerate his mana. So you do see Farseek, but one thing you don't see in his deck list as you take a look at it is you don't see Arbor Elf or Avacyn's Pilgrim. That's a very large change from normal Junk Reanimator deck list, and I'm a little bit curious why those aren't there.
Well, it's often challenging to have green mana untapped on the first turn. That's not something you always have access to. And it is a target for removal spells where the deck is actually fairly durable against spot removal otherwise. So this is obviously a non-conventional choice, but it's fairly easy to rationalize. I can understand how he got to that point.
So Costa draws a counterflux for the turn, just going to play an island and pass the turn back. Overgrown Tomb going to come into play untapped from Mickelson, push him down to 18, and going to pass the turn back. So representing Restoration Angel here, also access to Grizzly Salvage or maybe an instant speed removal spell. Costa tapped out for, I think, twice, but no Restoration Angel here. So there's an island going to pass the turn back, and there is a Grizzly Salvage. So we'll take a look at the top 5. We're going to find a Garrett Primal Hunter, a Vault of the Archangels ×2, an Acidic Slime, and looks to be a Woodland Cemetery. Slime immediately going to Mickelson's hand.
And the card that Sheridan really would ideally like to find here is one of his 2 copies of Cavern of Souls, because Costa decided into a fairly heavy counterspell-oriented plan.
Well, you see him digging there with another Grizzly Salvage. Acidic Slime going to the hand again. Reveals an Angel of Serenity, a Thragtusk, another Grizzly Salvage, and a Mystery card. So, I think those 2 Grizzly Salvages, one finding the Slime, I think the second one he was looking for, as you said, Cavern of Souls, to be able to push this through. If he does have a 5th land, which it does not look like he does, I think he would have slammed down an Acidic Slime, but he just simply does not have one right now.
Yeah, his hand appears to be 2 copies of Restoration Angel, a Thragtusk, and 3 Acidic Slimes.
So think twice from Costa, going to draw him a War Leader's Helix. He'll untap, he'll draw a Moorland Haunt, a card that he said he's been very, very happy with in his deck. He does not have access to a card like Runechanter Spike from days before, but he said he's still very, very pleased with this card in his deck, as you see Mickelson cast a Restoration Angel and pass the turn back. So in for 3 is going to come the Angel, and it doesn't look like Mickelson has a 5th land yet again. Costa's going to cast an Angel of his own, and Mickelson's going to play another one. So another Angel standoff here, Patrick.
Yep, and you see Costa not willing to tap out on Sheridan's main phase there, willing to take the 3 damage to protect himself from Sheridan having some follow-up in his second main phase.
As far as using your life total as a resource goes, especially with these decks, it's something that you have to be very, very good at, and Costa is one of the best at doing that.
And again, he knows he's playing against Drunk Reanimator, not really much of a risk of getting burned out. He can use all 19 of his 20 points as a resource here, and so you're probably going to see him err on the side of caution in terms of tapping out, willing to absorb some hits to maintain flexibility and be able to react to Sheridan's plays.
So Sheridan does finally draw that 5th land, plays an Overgrown Tomb, untapped, takes 2 to cast an Acidic Slime, but Counterflux is going to take care of that, no questions asked. Sheridan will come across, get 3 damage through as the Restoration Angels will bounce off of each other, and a Think Twice yet again here from Costa is going to draw him a Turn and Burn. So he's generating velocity, making sure that he's able to hit his land drops. He does have a Steam Fence in his hand, does Costa. We'll see if he's going to play it tapped or untapped and how he wants to navigate these next couple of turns, because these are the important turns for the game right now.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, that 5th land is obviously very dangerous from Costa's perspective. He knows Sheridan has no end of powerful 5s in his hand and in his deck.
And we're looking at a deck that has access to at least 1 more Acidic Slime coming, but also, of course, Thragtusk, potentially Orbs that. You see a 6th land here for Sheridan. He's going to start his turn off with Acidic Slime yet again.
Acidic Slime is going to resolve and target a Sacred Foundry.
See if Costa's going to add any mana here, because this is Costa's 1 lone white source, and looks like he is going to add a white mana. You see Costa separate his land, so it is going to be War Leader's Helix taking care of an Angel.
War Leader's Helix is another card that gives Costa a lot of flexibility to use his life as a resource. Catches right back up.
Yeah.
A lot of Sheridan's beatdown work, beatdown in quotes, kind of undone here.
So Restoration Angels are going to bounce off each other. And this is kind of a risky attack if he doesn't mind letting his Restoration Angel get finished off by a card like Turn and Burn. But Costa not going to finish it off, just, you know, takes a block, untaps, and moves on. Does not have a land for the turn.
Cut off of white, and it's going to be really hard for Costa to navigate this game if he doesn't find it quickly. He has multiple copies of Think Twice in his graveyard, so he has some ability to dig for white, but he's going to need to find it sooner rather than later.
So he does miss his land drop after flashing back a Think Twice, passing the turn back. Mickelson, tapping his mana on his main phase, going to lead off with another Acidic Slime. That's going to resolve. Steam Vent's going to float some mana there, is Costa. And now here comes the Slime and Restoration Angel. They'll look at each other. Slime will come across for 2. Costa untaps and draws a Hollow Fountain, so does have a white source of mana, but certainly under some trouble here because Slimes are very difficult to block, and Mickelson is doing what Junk Reanimator does best in these matchups, which is attack Costa's mana.
A fused Turn Burn does a lot of work in ameliorating the Acidic Slime beatdowns, but that's not the end of the problem. Again, Mickelson now with a bunch of mana and a lot of haymakers in his hand. Costa comfortably on the back foot here, and this is the type of game that Blue-White Red Flash is less equipped to play. It wants to be leveraging a board position, getting ahead of damage, and then using removal to keep things off balance, not playing a purely reactive game.
So now Costa is going to flashback, I think, twice, and in response, Mickelson is going to cast a acidic slime, he's going to respond, take care of that acidic slime that was going to be blinked. So he's going to draw a card, draw another card, multiple copies of Glacial Fortress. But again, Costa at 10, Mickelson strike force better than his, and Costa knows that Mickelson hasn't played a land for a couple of turns, which is a very scary feeling if you're Costa, because you know that all those cards in his hand are spells, and they're all probably gigantic creatures coming at me.
Yep. Though that white source of mana and responding to the Restoration Angel with a turn burn there to take out the acidic slime, finding more white mana, Costa actually with a little bit of breathing room now. He also has a Supreme Verdict in hand along with another Helix, so it's actually got a little room to play with here.
And the one thing he has to do is, you see Costa's hand, as you mentioned, he's got Supreme Verdict, he has Sphinx's Revelation, he has Turn Burn, he has Warlord Helix. He needs to be able to convert those cards. He needs to be able to actually get them out of his hand and let him have an impact on the game, because he's a little bottlenecked on mana. Thank you very much, multiple acidic slimes. But he needs to be able to get these resources out and then resolve a big revelation and kind of turn the corner. And Mickelson's goal, obviously, is to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So we're this turn and the following turn, I think, are going to be kind of the fulcrum of the game here.
Mm-hmm.
If Costa can stabilize his board and get a revelation to stick, he might be able to start actually pulling ahead.
You see Costa making an attack here. Gonna take 3 damage. Feels like a Supreme Verdict to me. And that is going to be what it is. So it's going to clear everything up. And I think Costa's thinking here is, I really hope you don't have Burial Rites in your hand.
Yeah, and there's a
process.
There's a Cavern. So it's not going to be on Burial Rites, but it's likely to be Voice of Resurgence plus Thragtusk, which is not a bad follow-up.
Yeah, that is a good follow-up. We'll figure out what that Cavern of Souls is naming for you guys in just a moment here. But you see this insane follow-up, as it is going to name Angel here for Mickelson. You see a great follow-up to the next turn. But dodges and Burial Rites does Costa. So if you're Costa, that's at least a positive.
Yeah, and that Pillar Flame is huge there too. Now he can actually... He's getting close to being able to rev for a fair bit here. And in fact, that wouldn't surprise me if that was actually his turn.
You see Costa at 6 being attacked for 5. Think twice. Okay, he's going to Morlenhaunt. Okay, excuse me. So he activates Morlenhaunt to block here. So now he has a utility land that he's going to get some advantage out of. Here is a Thragtusk for Mickelson. That's one that's going to resolve as well.
So with Sheridan pulling ahead on life to the extent that he is, Costa can no longer win this game by kind of just keeping him off balance and getting in a couple shots. At this point, his plan has to be to try to land a big revelation. That's his path.
I think we're going to see Morlenhaunt play a pretty big role in this game, as Mulch is going to be cast here pre-combat by Mickelson. Going to turn over an Angel of Serenity, a Temple Garden, an Isolated Chapel, and an Overgrown Tomb. So it's going to be a draw 3, an Angel going to the graveyard. But again, if you're Costa, you're pretty thrilled that Burial Rites has not shown up to the party yet.
Yeah, that is a huge issue for Costa at this stage of the game. So avoiding Burial Rites for as long as possible is a big part of him being able to pull out of this game.
In comes the Beast. So what is Costa going to do here? He's going to reorganize his mana. Looks like we're going to start this turn with a Warleader's Helix targeting Thragtusk. And you brought up just how great Warleader's Helix can be in this matchup, gaining him a bunch of life, basically flogging this attack, giving Mickelson a Beast token, but you'd rather have a 3/3 out there than a 5/3.
Especially because that Beast lines up very poorly with the Restoration Angel that's also in Costa's hand. So
Mickelson can just play a land and say go. Costa getting a little bit of breathing room here. Gonna cast Restoration Angel. Going to untap. No punishment for playing that Angel and tapping out. Draws a card. Another Pillar of Flame and just passes the turn back. Representing Syncopate. Sphinx's Revelation in his hand right now, and also has an Azorius Charm.
I think this is going to be our big rev turn from Costa.
From Costa, Thragtusk coming across, immediately blocking. And another Beast token comes. Here's a Farseek, and it looks like Mickelson may pass a turn back. And if that is the case of him passing the turn, this is the big revelation turn that you were talking about. And this is Costa starting to turn the corner now.
Yeah, Costa has worked very hard to get this moment. Of course, still numerous huge draws in Sheridan's deck. As mentioned before, on Burial Rites and Thragtusk and Angel of Serenity, Obsidian chief among them. But Costa has worked the game to a spot where he's able to land this large revelation.
And this is what he was trying to get himself to the entire time that he drew Sphinx's Revelation, and maybe before he even had it, knowing that he has them to draw to because it is so important, both for his deck and in the matchup.
Yeah. I think he was happy to play a tempo game for a while, but once Mickelson started landing Thragtusks, he kind of had to shift gears a little bit, and now you're seeing that shift pay off.
So as Mickelson does resolve his Farseek and Costa does shuffle up the deck, it looks like it's going to be the end of Mickelson's turn, and I can't imagine a reason we won't see it, and we do. Revelation for 5, going to push Costa up to 10, but more importantly, draw 5 cards. Restoration Angel, Steam Vents, Sulfur Falls, Thundermaw Hellkite, and another Sphinx's Revelation.
With some big draws, he can actually start applying some pressure. He has another Restoration Angel, which lines up, again, very nicely against the Beast tokens, and another Rev to refire with after he deploys his resources, so not much more you can ask for out of that Revelation if you're Costa.
So we see Costa reaching for some mana. Gonna do something we don't often see. Cast a spell during his main phase. It's gonna be Thundermaw Hellkite, and he's getting aggressive with it. So gonna come across in here for 5 and laying a bit of a bear trap here because of the Restoration Angel.
Yeah. And even, even if he didn't want to get aggressive there, time is actually not really on his side as much as it would appear otherwise. Mickelson, again, with a ton of huge draws left in his deck, so Costa kind of has to get in his shots.
Now, we talked about Costa a little bit earlier using his life total as a resource. Here he was at 10, 2 attack from the Beast tokens, and he could have very easily cast Restoration Angel, blink the Thundermaw Hellkite, and block both the tokens. He doesn't even move. He just goes down to 4, casts the Think Twice, untaps, and draws a card. Doesn't even consider blocking there.
Yeah, he can set up a better spot to make that same block next turn. He doesn't really care that much about the damage, and if he were to play his Restoration Angel and block, he's largely exposed to Angel of Serenity. So this way he has just more insurance.
And so now he's going to pick a spot with Restoration Angel. Now he's going to block both of those Beast tokens. And look how much better things look here for Costa with all of that mana there at the bottom of the table. Now I can cast a Snapcaster Mage, and now I can turn the corner, Warleader's Helix Shoe, get myself up to 8, and feel beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, now he's untapping and
attacking for lethal. Yeah, he's going to attack for 10 and win the game. Matthew Costa wins this match 2-0 over Sheridan Mickelson. Bullet Red Flash over Junk Reanimator. Surgical is the word that comes to mind for me.
Costa did an incredible job of that game of shifting gears multiple times. Early on in the game, looked like he was trying to have some sort of tempo plan with Restoration Angel, backed up by Helix to clear out Restoration Angels and get in some shots. Once it was clear that was no longer a plan because of Thragtusk, he shifted into a pure control role where he tried to stabilize the board and get a big Sphinx's Revelation off so he wouldn't have to care that much about the life that Mickelson had gained through the Thragtusks. And then once that corner was turned, actually turned around and killed Sheridan in 2.5 turns, basically.
I mean, 2 turns, yeah.
So just an incredible job of sculpting the game, realizing when he had to pivot off of his plan a little bit and redirect his resources, and like you said, surgical, precise magic from Matt Costa.
And one thing you notice there is